Let's pray. O God, for as much as without thee we are not able to please thee, mercifully grant that by thy most Holy Spirit we may be directed in all our ways. Increase in each of us the virtue of duty, honor, and loyalty. We may serve our country, those who are dependent upon us, and those in need. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Is Peter here? Would you do the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Peter, please. Honor the flag. Allegiance to thee, and to this one state under God, one indivisible. And laws. We, representatives of the heroes of the American Revolution, who by their sacrifices established the United States of America, reaffirm faith in the principles of liberty and our constitutional republic. We pledge ourselves to defend the American Revolution, honor the revolutionary ancestors, promoting communities, educating and inspiring future generations of the resources of the country. Please be seated. First, go to the chapter. I'm Mark Hanson, and I'm a resident of Fairview, resident of the Dallas Chapter, past state chancellor, district vice president, and dual member of McKinney.
Hey, Tom, is the mic on?
I'm Nathan White, that's here in McKinney, I'm one of the president general, my wife, all from where? Somewhere. Good here.
William Graham of the McKinney Chapter, Mark Joanne with the
Hi, I'm Keith Clone, and I'm here in McKinney and have some microphone projects. Bill Hurst, member of the chapter since it began. And this is my wife, Ruth Ann, who is also a DA.
Okay. Hey, this thing, is it working?
No,
Here?
no.
Here
You're doing absolutely right.
That's right. Rich Bonaparte, registrar, McKinney Chapter, my wife, Lynn.
Jerry Kenny, McKinney Chapter.
Peter Ford, McKinney Chapter, treasurer there.
I have a member of the chapter, and this is my son Dashville. He's a member of Matthew Bullock Society CAR chapter, and he's also working on his application to join the team.
Lacey, McKinney Chapter, I'm from Frisco. I take care of the veterans, part of my duties.
I'm Tom Swilling. I'm a visitor seeking to join McKinney Chapter.
Larry Moore, Dallas Chapter and McKinney Chapter.
Hello, Jonathan Hay, first meeting and also working on
Mark McCraw, McKinney Chapter.
McKinney Chapter.
Other agents are very, dual, McKinney, Ellis County, so Trinity. I'm also dual in Louisiana Society in my dual, chapter in Alexandria. The Plano Chapter Color Guard Commander, and at the state society level, the Northern Region Color Guard, Adjutant, and the District 6 Vice President.
I'm busy.
That's the new secretary, and there's nobody on yet.
Very Barnett.
I'm actually happy.
Hi, I'm Carol Mills.
Hey, I'm sure. This room.
I'm Wilson from the Plano Chapter, Bill McKinney. I'm a past state color commander.
I'm Wilson from McKinney. I've already introduced here, but I'm a past president. I was the president of the council chapter presidents, state level, district 11 vice president, and I won't tell you the rest of it. Jerry Breville, McKinney Chapter.
I'm Judy Shamp, and this is my dad, and here's a husband.
I'm all recent, McKinney Chapter. So we have a program tonight. Mark, would you come forward, please?
Great, thank you, Paul. So tonight we have Dave Fautheree here with us as the mentioned from Plano. He grew up around the Virginia area, so he was able to see and learn about a lot of Revolutionary and Civil War sites when he was growing up. But he was born in Stuttgart, Germany. His family has deep roots in Louisiana. He's here to talk to us tonight about the Spanish and their influence. With minors in engineering and history. He rose to the rank of captain, and then he ended up going to graduate school of engineering at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, where he graduated in computer systems. Thereafter, he joined the faculty of Wright State University in Clearwater, Ohio, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and rose to assistant dean at that college of engineering and computer science. He left Wright State University for 8 years. He worked for companies, joined Southwest Airlines in their technology department. He was with Southwest for 23 years until he retired in April of 2025.
I think I'm good enough for that right now. Thank you.
And lastly, after 12 years at university faculty, I can project. Although my students were a little more disciplined than athletes, I know from experience. I helped her with 7 periods of her 8th grade history class. And so yeah. information being taught about just how important Spain was to the American Revolution. Our founding fathers knew that. They had very much thanked Spain for its contributions, and there was quite a bit that Spain did that most people don't know about, like funding almost all of France and the American military. A lot of that's because Spain didn't join in with the revolution until 1779. They were neutral until then. And neutral to the same degree that the US was neutral from 1939 till December 7th, 1941. We were shipping a lot of supplies to Great Britain, not very neutral. Well, Spain was doing the same thing. They were providing covert aid to the American Revolution. And in fact, before Continental Congress even sent, Ben Franklin and all the ambassadors to France, Spain had already shipped a lot of supplies and provided a lot of funding. Spain in North America fought more battles than the French. They won more victories than the French, but that's generally not too surprising. And they provide a lot more troops from Spain fought in the Americas, both North America, Central America, and South America. The American Revolution was a world war. There were campaigns being fought all over the world, which actually helped the colonies quite a bit because Great Britain had to stretch its fleet and troops out across multiple continents. That really helped. Yorktown was due pretty much directly to the Spanish, because what enabled Yorktown to happen was the Ross was able to send his entire fleet from Rochambeau and Washington, blockade the Chesapeake Bay. The French and British fleets fought off the was called Battle of the Capes off of Cape Henry and Cape Charles. The French won that, kept the British Navy from reinforcing Cornwallis, but the only way Comte de Grasse could get his entire fleet up was if somebody protected the French colonies in the Caribbean and the Gulf, and that somebody was the Spanish. The Spanish fleet protected the French colonies. Spain was instrumental. Also, when George Washington and Rochambeau were in Newport, Rhode Island, both armies were running out of money. Spain sent a ship loaded with Spanish silver dollars, millions of them, up to pay Washington's army and Rochambeau's army, and that was a huge financial contribution by Spain. In fact, the American dollar is based on the Spanish dollar. In fact, if you look at one of the old Continentals that not worth a Continental, they claim to be worth one Spanish silver dollar. The Spanish dollar was the basis on currency. And of course, Spanish dollar is also known as pieces of 8, and that's where we get the 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits dollar. That's Spanish silver dollar pieces of 8. Anyway, to set the stage, in 1763, at the end of what we call the French and Indian War and what the Europeans called the 7 Years' War, here's how North America looked. You can see that all this pink area was territory claimed by France. In fact, what led to the war was the colonies had overlapping claims. In fact, Virginia, in its original charter, as well as Pennsylvania and the Carolinas, claimed at least to the Mississippi, and were pushing it to the Pacific, even though they didn't know how far away that was. But The French also claimed it, and the war actually was helped along somewhat by George Washington. When he went to the Ohio country, he was accompanied by a couple of scouts, one of whom was Native American. That Native American had something against the French, and he tomahawked the French officer. That started a little scuffle, and the French made George Washington sign a paper accepting responsibility for the start of the war. Of course, Washington didn't know that's what it said, and he really wasn't, but it was good French propaganda. And, that led to the French and Indian War. All this ink went from France to Great Britain, and Florida, which until 1763 was Spanish, that also went to the British, because during that war, the British, along with over 1,000 Pennsylvania and Massachusetts militia, captured Havana, Cuba, which was the capital of the colonies, the Spanish colonies in the Caribbean and the Gulf. Spain wanted that back, so they negotiated where they would get Havana back, but give up East and West Florida. At that point, Florida was actually two different colonies. France also had Louisiana, and by Louisiana, we mean essentially everything that was in the Louisiana Purchase later. So not just the little piece in southern end, but all this yellow went from France to Spain. So Spain was down here. They of course, Texas was part of New Spain, but now Louisiana was also part of Spain, which meant you had the Spanish on the west bank of the Mississippi and the British on the east bank. Along the same time, the British were busy expelling the Acadians from Nova Scotia. They were forcibly evacuated using a bayonet point. Some of them became indentured servants in lovely places like the British plantations in Barbados. Some were sent back to France. Some were sent to other parts of the Caribbean. What the British did not want is for them to end up across the Mississippi from the British, because at that point, the Acadians, the modern Cajuns, Louisiana, had a little bit of resentment against the British. And last thing the British wanted was all those former Acadia residents to be a little hostile force on the other side of the river. Turns out that's what they got. So it worked out well for the Acadians. Going into this conflict, Spain wanted to stay until it was allied with France. It never allied directly with the American colonies, but it had some joint objectives and its own objectives. Out this war. First one, they wanted Gibraltar back. Spain lost Gibraltar in the early 1700s, and one of those many European wars that Washington said to avoid foreign entanglements. Well, the War of Spanish Succession was where Spain lost Gibraltar to Britain. And by the way, this is still a Spanish objective. They would love to get Gibraltar back from the British even now. They also lost Minorca, and they wanted to get Great Britain out of the Gulf of the Caribbean. In fact, one of their Minister of the Indies referred to the British taking East Florida in particular as a dagger pointed at our colonies, primarily in Cuba. Because if you look at it, Florida kind of points directly at Cuba, and with Spanish treasure ships sailing up the Straits of Florida, last thing the Spanish wanted was any hostile British forces that will be able to intercept them, because the Straits of Florida are not all that wide, and the British fleet could take all that gold and silver being shipped out of the Americas to Spain away from the Spanish. He also wanted to diminish British prestige from winning several different European wars, and get some of their own prestige back along with the French. And France and Spain were very closely tied together. At the end of the War of Spanish Succession, the family that took over ruling Spain from the Habsburgs were the Bourbon family, the Bourbon family, same as the royal family of France. In fact, during the American Revolution, King Carlos III of Spain was King Louis the 16th uncle. So the only restriction coming out of the Treaty of Utrecht that ended this War of Spanish Succession was if you were in line for the throne of Spain, you couldn't be in line for the throne of France. So that broke up those two branches of the Bourbon family. The person tasked with doing this part that's highlighted in red was Bernardo de Galvez. He was born in 1746 in Spain. He was born to gentry, not nobility. His father, Matthias, was a general. In fact, Matthias commanded troops during the American Revolution in Central and South America. His uncle, the brother to his dad, was the minister of the Indies, so he was in charge of foreign affairs for pretty much all of North and South America. He actually was commissioned in the French army. That's not a typo. Spanish commissions were purchased and they were prohibitively expensive, even though the Galvez family had lots of influence. They did not have lots of ready cash. So they were position rich, but cash poor. So think Downton Abbey. Actually, Bernardo de Galvez would solve some of his financial issues the same way. We'll get into that. In 1770, he was assigned, he was sent down to New Spain, which is pretty much, it's all of current Mexico plus the American Southwest of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Utah, Nevada, all that was Spanish territory. That was New Spain. He learned a few hard lessons fighting the Apaches, primarily that all those linear tactics he was taught in the French and Spanish army don't work against people like the Apache. So he had to learn to be very flexible and adaptable, which he did when he finished with the Apache, where he actually did pretty well. He then was sent to France, primarily to military engineering school. At that, during the 18th century, the French were the experts in military engineering. That is, how to create fortifications and how to besiege them and capture them. So he studied that and got even better with French than he was before, which would come in handy once we get there. In 1775, he was assigned to a regiment under Alejandro O'Reilly, who was a former Spanish Louisiana governor, by the way. Afterwards, you can ask me about how he got the name Levy O'Reilly in New Orleans and how Frenchman Street was named, because that's all tied together there. He did really well there, although the Spanish did not do very well against the Algerians, similar to the way the French didn't do too well against the Algerians in the 1950s and 60s. He was badly wounded, but showed a lot of bravery. So he was promoted to lieutenant colonel, and then a year later sent to Louisiana as a full colonel, commanding the Louisiana Infantry Regiment. Now, the way that worked was whoever commanded the regiment stationed there was like the lieutenant governor. So when the current governor leaves, the commander of the infantry regiment moves up to be the governor. And then they backfill the colonel. So in 1776, he was assigned as a colonel. At that point, even early in
1776, Spain started sending supplies to the colonists. In fact, by the end of 1776, 30,000 muskets with full ammunition loads, 10,000 uniforms, and 4,000 tents were sent upstream the Mississippi, upstream of the Ohio to Fort Pitt, what's now Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, General Washington was elsewhere at the end of 1776. He was crossing the Delaware from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, and then right around Christmas time, he was crossing it again. Unfortunately, these supplies didn't make it from Fort Pitt down to Washington's Continental Army. But that's not because they weren't there. They were, Spain had sent this, and this was before the Continental Congress sent any ambassadors to France to request aid. This was all done well in advance. Now, it was done covertly, and that's the whole key to, I think, some of the problems with people recognizing what happened. Early in the war, almost all the aid was done through front companies, or which were pretty much jointly set up by France and Spain. Majority of the funds were from Spain. And early in the war, once we started getting supplies from the French, those supplies were not sent on French ships. They were sent on Spanish ships through Spanish ports because Spain was neutral. And if the transport ship flew a French flag, the British would attack it and take it. If it was flying a Spanish flag, Britain would leave it alone since Spain was neutral. And the last thing the British wanted was to bring Spain in, because up until at the end of the French and Indian War, the British policy was to keep the Royal Navy numbers to be at least as much as the next two largest fleets combined. Unfortunately, the French and Indian War / 7 Years' War drained the treasury in Great Britain, and all the nasty little taxes they tried to pass on us. But what that also meant was their fleet became 2/3 of what it was. So combined, the French fleet, the French fleet and the Spanish fleet were 1/3 larger than the British fleet during the American Revolution. So that put some constraints on the British, why they didn't want Spain directly involved. In 1777, Galvez took over as the governor and started sending even more supplies both around the Floridas and up the East Coast where he could, and also up the Mississippi. And by the way, pulling barges upstream, both the Mississippi and the Ohio, is not easy. It was all done by using oxen if they could. Otherwise, it's the big long poles and pulling. Whole lot of work. He also took care of some finances by marrying the daughter of the most wealthy merchant in New Orleans, who also happened to be the sister of the oldest daughter that his predecessor, Governor Gonzaga, married. So he married really well. That worked out great for him because that also endeared him, like it did Gonzaga, with the French population in Louisiana. Not well known, but there was a revolt against the very first Spanish governor, who was turned away at gunpoint when he came to New Orleans to take over. The problem was most of the French descendants and French Louisiana at the time were not happy about being part of Spain. So they, I'm gonna expedite this. So they thought that the Spanish would restrict their trade, i.e. smuggling. And actually that was not going to happen because one of the things that King Carlos told them is keep all the trade rules that were in Louisiana the same, don't change anything, but they didn't know that. Alejandro O'Reilly was the next governor. He took care of the revolt.
along the way in 1778, Galvez knew that war was coming. He had been told by King Carlos. So he started preparing by getting troops and supplies. Some of those supplies came from Texas, escorted by troops from San Antonio and what's now Goliad. And he also provided supplies and arms and ammunition to George Rogers Clark, who was took Virginia troops into Ohio and Illinois, took British forts there. That was due to supplies provided by Spain through the American agent Oliver Pollock. In 1779, in May, Spain declared war. Galvez was ready with the first strike. Unfortunately, what struck first was a hurricane, and it was pointed straight at New Orleans and pretty much leveled it. So a lot of his supplies got destroyed. He had to start over again, which is why he couldn't leave until late August. And he then attacked a very small fort at Fort Butte in Manchac. That was named after one of the British politicians responsible for the start of the revolution. That was pretty small and had been damaged by the hurricane. He then attacked Fort New Richmond at Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge was on the east bank, so it's British. And Galvez had to take it, and he used some deception. There was a grove of trees very close to one of the walls of Fort New Richmond. He had some troops make a lot of noise, like the building there, siege works. He actually had more quiet siege works prepared a bit further away, but the deception worked. It also helped that the British forts just had field artillery, basically 4 to 8 pounder artillery pieces. The pounder is how much does the spherical ball weigh when it's shot out the barrel. So an 8 pounder is bigger than a 4 because the ball weighs 8 pounds. Galvez hauled 18 and 24 pounder siege guns up the swamps in the Mississippi in order to take it. And after about 3 hours of bombardment, the earthworks and ramparts around Fort New Richmond were damaged to the point where the British surrendered. Galvez demanded that the British also surrender matches, and he instructed the British commandant in Baton Rouge to accompany him. So when he shows up in Natchez, Mississippi, what's now Natchez, Mississippi, that the British will believe him that they were already surrendered. So that's what happened. So Natchez fell without a shot. Now, you can see that Galvez had quite a few troops. If you look at the numbers, he lost 400 to disease alone. He had 2 casualties through combat, but 400 through disease, which unfortunately was not a problem. Moving troops from other areas to South Louisiana and have them march through swamps. There's a few tropical diseases back then that we didn't have a good handle on. And unfortunately, that laid a lot of the issues, a lot of the troops out. In 1780, he attacked Mobile, took that by siege. In 1781, he attacked Pensacola, which was the capital of West Florida, and the largest British town in any of both of the Floridas, and he captured that. Here's a few paintings. These were done 2018 and 2016. This on the left is there's a rather large artillery piece. You can make out the wheels there, and against the wheels you see both the Betsy Ross flag and the Cross of Burgundy, which was the Spanish flag. And you can see the composition of the troops, and they are literally hauling an artillery piece through the swamps. He had troops from all over the Spanish Empire, as well as Native American troops that helped out. On the right, there's a painting of Galvez front and center, taking one of the lines in Pensacola. The painting on the left is in the Spanish embassy in Washington. The painting on the right is at his hometown in Spain. And his hometown in Spain is the only municipality that does not have a US military base that celebrates the 4th of July every year. And they go all out. They do a reenactment of the siege of Pensacola in period costume. They go all out. They really remember Galvez. After that, he returned to Spain because he was very successful at doing what he needed to do, with George Rogers Clark taking the Ohio and the upper Mississippi and him taking the lower Mississippi. It's, to quote Abraham Lincoln about the father of waters flowing unvexed to the sea. That's what happened with the Mississippi and the Ohio, because between George Rogers Clark and Spain, the Mississippi was clear from navigation without the British having their forts taking pot shots at barges. He died fairly young. He was only 44 years old. Unfortunately, that happened a lot in the 18th century. Galveston, Texas is named after him. And he's one of only 8 people that have been given honorary US citizenship by act of Congress. Anyway, I think my battery just died. If I can figure out it. There are also a few more battles. So Wallace did rather well. He finished as a field marshal, and he was ennobled as a count, and I think later a marquis. So he did really well for himself. And did a lot for the American Revolution. Spain's contributions go beyond that. There were a couple more battles fought. One of those in St. Louis, Missouri. The only Revolutionary War battle in what fought west Mississippi, and that's where some Louisiana infantry regiment, and along with the local militia, held against a Native American attack that was sponsored by Colonel, quote, Hairbuyer Hamilton. That was his nickname given to him by the Americans, because he would ask that the Native tribes confirm their attacks on the colonists by bringing back scouts. So he was known as that republic. Anyway, St. Louis held off in the attack, and Spain also sent an expedition up into Michigan. At Fort St. Joseph in Michigan, they defeated a British fort there. Spain claimed all the territory in the St. Joseph and Illinois rivers for Spain by right of conquest. Unfortunately, claiming something and getting it are 2 different things. At the end of the Revolution in 1783, there was negotiations for a peace treaty. What France and Spain wanted was for the American colonies and France and Spain to negotiate jointly as one with the British. What the British wanted to do was divide, conquer, and that's what they did, because they knew what the Americans wanted. We spelled it out in the Declaration, and every letter we had sent before the Declaration to the King and to Parliament saying what we wanted. So the British gave colonists what they wanted and proposed it before the Americans could get with the Spanish. Americans signed it because it gave them all the territory to the Mississippi, south of the Great Lakes, and north of Florida. Unfortunately, what it did spell out was exactly what Florida border they were referring to. The old Spanish border and the British border were 2 different. On top of that, the Spanish post at Arkansas coast on the Mississippi, they sent a little expedition across the Mississippi and claimed everything south of the Ohio for Spain. So pretty much most of Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, was all claimed by Spain as well as Florida. So there was an immediate land dispute between the colonies and Spain, to the point where Spain closed New Orleans to barge traffic down the Mississippi in 1784, which was only a year after the treaty was signed. So that also leads to why Spain isn't remembered, because right afterwards, we were on not good odds with Spain. And then, the negotiations with the French and Spanish didn't go all that well for them either. They didn't get everything they wanted. Spain did not get Gibraltar back. Although they did trade, the Bahamas and Bermuda back to the British, because they had captured those as well. And they were about to capture Jamaica when the British agreed to, have to negotiate a peace term that became the Treaty of Paris. So that's all I have. Any questions?
What's the name of the city in that Spain that,
My Spanish is horrible. My French is much better than Spanish. It's, Malaga. Yeah, well, Malaga is the province.
you know what, two famous Malagonites or whatever, Pablo Picasso and Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, two very different counties. Yeah, it's in the name of the city is pretty long. I said, I'm not gonna try to butcher it with my. Yeah. Yeah, that's where he is, that's where he's from, and they still honor him there. But thank you very much.
One second. Black. Here's a different. So Dave, this is for you, our appreciation for coming this evening and presenting us on someone's thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, the only item, thank you. The only item I have for new business is the induction of, well, a couple of items actually, the induction of new members. Nathan, would you please come forward?
I'll be glad to. My membership number in the SAR is 138-188. And the person who's going to be inducted tonight is 238. And 100 after that. So in 35 years, while we've taken in 100,000 members, and we're going to have one tonight. Tonight's kind of special because the person who's going to be inducted tonight is one of the few remaining World War II veterans in our country. Walter Hunter was 104 years old. And we've always said the average age of a SAR member in Texas is deceased. Well, that's not. We are hardly the younger generation to enter, but carry this one a little far, I think. As a young man, Walter Hunter was a decorated Boy Scout and Cub Scout leader and worked as a messenger boy for Western Union during the Second World War. And during the Second World War, he heeded the call to defend the nation and witnessed a surprise attack on after witnessing the surprise attack on, and he to the United States Marine Corps. Walter served in combat as a field communicationist during the grueling battles of Guadalcanal, Bougainville, and Green Island, in which he was awarded the Unit Citation for his meritorious action. He later worked in aviation electronics in North Carolina before being honorably discharged in 1945. During the Korean conflict in Korea, Walter was briefly called back to duty from the reserve. After his military service, he continued to be an outstanding American citizen Together, they had 3 daughters and many more grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Walter earned his doctorate degree from the University of Colorado. Okay. Yeah. And a degree from Colorado, and taught physics and chemistry at the University of Missouri. As a result of his excellent teaching abilities and his students' achievements, Walter received cash awards from the American Chemical Society, which he used to purchase science books for the school library. He also raised thousands of dollars to install an FM station, radio station for students interested in learning radio communication. At the young age of 104, he frequently travels across the country to spend time with his family and remains passionate about learning. In his free time, Walter studies science and the chaos theory. I'm going to come back to that one. I wonder what the heck is the chaos theory? And Andrew going our know-it-all Google. Chaos theory concerns the determinate systems which are predictable for some amount of time appear to become random. The amount of time the behavior of a chaotic system can be effectively predicted depends on 3 things. How much uncertainty can be tolerated in the forecast, how accurately a current state can be measured, and a time scale depending on the dynamics of the system, and on and on and on. I think, Mark, this would be a good program. Teach us a little. To be called upon to make this induction this evening. I will tell you, Walter, I had the opportunity to swear in George H.W. Bush into the SAR a number of years ago. And I consider that a great honor, but I also consider this to be right up there with it. This is a tremendous. Come forward if you would. You know, in the early days of the DAR, they didn't really pay too much attention to the application process. The fact of the DAR in the 1890s, many of them to their grandparents or grandfather who had served in the American Revolution. They said, you know, you don't need any forms or anything like that. Says, I knew Grandpa. He fought in the American Revolution. Well, Walter's not that old, man. I'm sure your patriot ancestor was a couple of generations back. But Patriot Walter Eugene Hunter, do you, as a descendant of one of the patriots and heroes of the American Revolution, reaffirm your ancestors' faith in the principles of liberty in your constitutional republic? You do. And will you pledge to support the National Society Sons of the American Revolution? I now take great pleasure in presenting you your membership certificate number 238-337, indicated mine 138, by descent from Henry Hunter. Now, fortunately, we've got some really great genealogists in the society, and one of whom is Brother Bonaparte, and he is going to present to you your ribbon, your rosette, your rosette buff, and the colors of George Washington's birthday. That's perfect. I'm having a Biden moment here. Well, the colors of his uniform.
Let's say that's probably chaos theory.
That's part of the chaos theory. So where you
Margaret's from complexion.
There you go. All right.
All right, well, Walter, we met when you first came out here. It's a pleasure to see you again. And to see everybody else here. So this rosette is the official recognition emblem of the Sons of the American Revolution. Blue and buff, same colors as George Washington. We wear it proudly. I wear mine when you have them and wear them as well. I'm gonna pin it on you, okay? And encourage you to wear it proudly when you move around. Pretty good on you.
And now you have someone with you here
I
today.
have Judy. Judy Shamp. And my daughter, my oldest daughter.
All right.
Yes. 3 daughters. We have 7 grandchildren and 11 great grand. Oh, right passed away this year and a half ago. And she was 99 years old. We've been married 77 years. We traveled to every state in the union. We've been to Russia. Also on Putin's office. That'll be. So very pleased, very happy to be here to see you, to speak with you and to meet all of you. I'm very glad.
Very. Well, Walter, in a moment, I'm gonna speak just briefly about your Patreon system, just a little bit. There's a lot to say, but. I do want to say that I'm a history buff. I'm an avid military working. Right. And when I was 21 years old, I was introduced to play with my best friend, now board game.
Well, you know.
It's fantastic. All the units that you guys were in, are present on that board.
I was at Hampton Field. December and then was through spring when he was first
Right.
right side of Hampton Field. That's Florida Hill, 100 yards from me. We took care of line combat position back to the target.
Right, and there's so much to say about that. That's fascinating. I do want to tell you that Henry Hunter was born in 1740 in Nansemond, Virginia, to William. He was 41. He married Sarah, who was 42 at the time. His father, William, died in 1749 in Habermill, North Carolina, which I'm fascinated with. And his mother, Sarah, died in 1750 in Chowan, North Carolina. Now, he joined the military when he was 35. That was on October 22nd, 1775. And he joined the New Jersey 1st Regiment. He was also in the 2nd Regiment. So he served from 77 to 83. He resided in Mecklenburg, North Carolina in 1780. Then he moved to Halifax, North Carolina in 86. And then he moved to Wilkerson County, Missouri. And he remained there from 1810 until his death. And I had a son with Lucy Ruffin. That was in 1776. So something to celebrate, right, during the Revolution. Their son Henry died in 1820, just 2 years before he died, in Franklin, Indiana, at the age of 44. And then his wife Lucy died in 1818 in Missouri at the age of 80. And then he died himself on the 2nd of October, 1822 in Wilkinson, Missouri in at the age of 82. So there's a lot to say about him. You know, what's interesting about working with Walter, first of all, it's a great pleasure to have you here, to see your energy, to see the family here, to have this great turnout. But the speed at which I did your application is not one that I'm gonna commit to for anybody else. I think I did your application in 3 hours. I've never done that in my life. Just everything happened to fall together. And we got it together. Now we're gonna submit it to national, or we're gonna continue to work with national improvements. But I did want to give you this. It's your packet. It's got your membership card, it's got an introductory letter from the National Society of Supplement and Evolution with a lot of great information welcoming you. There are some instructions here how to log into the SAR.org website, username, password. You can get to your profile, you can look at other things, you can do research, just have fun up there. But that's for you to take home. And then I'd like everybody just to take a moment and welcome our newest member.
Great grandson, named Henry Clay Hunter. He was a war veteran, recruited in Illinois, duty group. Biographical sketch of his experience at Civil War. The history to during our college, neighborhood. So I have a copy of that.
Well, thank you very much. When I'm 104, I hope I'm in the festivities. I do also have one other privilege that has been accorded to me tonight. Most of us have a patriot ancestor. Some have one or two additional or supplemental applications that are approved. And
Can we get a picture with him?
oh, sure.
Hey, Walter, can we get a quick picture with you?
I thought we had. We had.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, yeah, here. Why don't you come on over here then?
This should probably get nationals.
Yeah.
Or in the magazine.
Wait a second, let me go to
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. They have someone who has 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 applications that are approved. So they have supplemental several. Tonight, we're going to recognize a member of the Sons of the American Revolution who we're recognizing as a 30-year member of the SAR. Bill, first time. Bill, I believe, is a charter member of our McKinney chapter, but he has served in a number of capacities, primarily in the area of genealogy, and I would say he's brought something out of chaos. With his number of, how many supplementals do you have?
Officially approved right now, 56.
Oh.
I do have 4 more international waiting approval.
So I think he's got his own army, maybe it's not. He's got a brigade of members of the fought for the American Revolution. Bill, 30 years is a long time to be a member of the SAR, but it's, in your case, it's not just not just being a member, but being an active, participating, valuable member of the SAR. We're delighted to recognize your 30 years. Appreciate
Tom, would you come forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay. We got the sound where. Kevin,
Yep.
can you
I'm
hear
here.
me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on a second here. Let's see. Give us a second. Go here. Was it showing up there?
You have to switch it from mine.
Ah, you turned yours off and I thought it was already switched over.
Nope.
So it's doing something. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, can you hear us now?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just barely. Let's see.
Uh,
Okay, let's see now. Say a few things,
um,
Kevin.
1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it should, you should, let me make sure. Is this on? No, here. Okay, say it again now.
1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Just barely. Is that on? That should be working.
Hang on. I should move the mic closer. Hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's on our end, I think, here. Let's see.
Get closer.
This may be a little rough here. Let's see. We're not having very good luck with you here, it seemed like. Okay. Let's see, the microphone is. It was working this good when we were messing with it a while. Sometimes you have to set up. Yeah. Have you got that on?
I don't know, doesn't look like it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, say a few things, Kevin.
Hi. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Okay, I think we got something now. Okay, everyone, hold on a second. This is Kevin's from, he is our essay contest winner for this year. We're really excited about it. He had a very good essay, and he wasn't able to be with us directly tonight, but we wanted him to read the essay to you so you could hear him again. Let's see, have you graduated yet?
Yep, I just graduated just recently on June 1st.
Oh, congratulations. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, well, why don't you go ahead and read your essay, and we'll all try to be real quiet so we can hear this.
Okay. First I would like to thank all of y'all for for the honor and privilege for me reading this essay. I honestly thought this essay was pretty much a joy of my life of doing a lot of historical research. It's been a while since I've done some writing as far as history goes, but it's brought me back to some my middle school times, I would say. But I guess to the essay. I tell the essay as the Battle of Saratoga and its effects on the American Revolution. A shot rings out in the distance. There is no conventional warfare. Musket balls zip past, unbeknownst to men that a larger American force was hidden deeper in the woods. These were the soldiers of the General John Burgoyne, tasked to test American defense and forage in the woods. The prior encounters at the Battle of Freeman's Farm on September 19, 1777, and the capture of the forward ground earlier in the campaign has built Burgoyne's confidence, and the capture of Albany was still possible. During the intermission between the battles, Burgoyne's force, encircled by the Patriots, built trenches and redoubts near Saratoga, cautiously waiting for the Patriots to attack. They never did. The Battle of Saratoga became a decisive turning point of the American Revolution because British overextension, American control of terrain, and aggressive leadership combined to trap and defeat Burgoyne's army. Burgoyne was short on supplies. His invasion force was deep in hostile territory, with surprise lines running thin. His men were starving, and Americans did them no favor, using scorched earth tactics to prevent the British from foraging for food by cutting down trees across roads, burning bridges, and killing livestock. The Hudson Valley did provide cover, but little room for movement, hindering the transport of artillery. By early October 1777, rations in the British Army were reduced to half portions, increasing desertion rates. Additionally, Bemis Heights, the ridge that ran parallel to the Hudson River, had a steep slope, making a British attack difficult and unlikely. The dense wooded high ground to the west and the river to the east trapped the invaders and forced the British to break formation into isolated units. On the American side, under the command of General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold, the two rival commanders were still licking wounds from their last encounter with the British regulars at the Battle of Freeman's Farm. Though a tactical stalemate for the Americans, their defense of Bemis Heights claimed roughly 600 British casualties. The men were determined to prevent the Canadian force from dividing New England. Early in the invasion, Burgoyne had captured Fort Ticonderoga on July 6, 1777, without a fight. Luckily for the Americans, the British coordination with other divisions, General Henry Clinton, encamped in New York City, and General William Howe, who has chosen to invade the Chesapeake Bay and Philadelphia in hopes for delivering a decisive defeat to George Washington, failed to materialize. Was to support Burgoyne from the west, was pushed back into the Mohawk Valley after the Battle of Orensky on August 6, 1777, and the siege of Fort Stanwix. Unfortunately for Burgoyne, these uncoordinated efforts left him and his men isolated in the cooling autumn weather near Saratoga. No additional troops were coming to reinforce him. His choices were clear: return safely to Canada or march onward towards Albany. Despite knowing his army would not be rescued, Burgoyne pressed on. On October 7, 1777, Burgoyne detached a small expeditionary force of approximately 1,500 men under Brigadier General Simon Fraser and Major John Dyke Ackland to probe the heights and assess the enemy's manpower. The Patriots soon learned of the new British positions, leading Arnold and Gates to set aside their differences and spring into action, sending approximately 2,000 American troops to meet British near Bemis Heights. Daniel Morgan's riflemen were the first to spot the British. A skirmish ensued, and both armies concentrated their forces. The aggressive Arnold shifted Gates' defensive positions into coordinated flanking attacks against the British center. He sent small platoons west of the embankment to execute a flanking maneuver, while the main force, growing in number, pressed forward across the field from the American left towards the British center. Although initially outnumbered, the Patriots fought long and hard against the disciplined redcoats. They repelled multiple charges and overran British cannons several times. The battle dragged on, with neither side breaking the line until Arnold led a series of successful counterattacks that captured 4 British fieldworks, anchoring the line. The Americans made British pay for every step taken beyond the safety of their fortifications. In the midst of the battle, the respected General Simon Fraser was shot by Timothy Murphy and mortally wounded by a rifle ball to the abdomen, dying later that evening. News of the fallen general spread panic and confusion among the redcoats. Another senior officer, Major John Dyke Ackland, was severely wounded while leading grenadier assault. Morale collapsed, and the British force was driven back towards their fortification, only to be harmed by Benedict Arnold's advancing skirmishers. Many men fell as skirmishers seized the fieldworks. The Patriots trapped the German troops inside Bremen's redoubt and overwhelmed its defenders after brutal close-quarters fighting. Burgoyne ordered a retreat, but the damage has already been done. Over several hours, approximately 400 British casualties were suffered at Bemis Heights alone, including key officers. The retreat ended the American forces closing in along the Hudson corridor, forcing Burgoyne to surrender on October 1777. The team was generous. Under the Convention of Saratoga, the defeated army marched out with honors and agreed to return to Europe and not fight again in North America. Burgoyne, however, was disgraced upon his return to England. Decisive victory at Saratoga marked a turning point of the American Revolution. It not only crushed the invading Northern Army, but secured French recognition in 1778. That recognition brought vital military and naval support, transforming the war into a global conflict. Britain was now fighting from a Caribbean to an Indian coast. An operation meant to choke the rebellion in New England instead forced Britain to rethink its entire strategy, revealing where the real power in the colonies truly lay. And that would be the end of my essay. Hello?
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. You got your certificate and the check, right?
That is correct, sir.
Important part, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. And okay, thank you so much. And good luck with your next endeavors in life.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Man. Gotta get my notes. How are you today? Good, good. This is Megan. And she was the winner of our brochure contest. I'm gonna try to get this off here. Take quick. She did the brochure contest. I'm not gonna have her read it all. I know you're excited to hear that. But anyway, she did, on the Boston Tea Party, you know, these brochures, they fold up like that, okay? And then you open out and you read this, and she followed the directions. Sometimes it's a little confusing as to what you do, right? So you had to follow the direction. She did everything like she was supposed to do. And anyway, so I'm gonna give you, this is your original, I'm gonna give that back to you. I'm gonna frame that or something, you never know. And then, take this. I've got you a certificate here. Plastic over this side. Yeah, okay. So we've got a certificate here. Got your name on it. It says Certificate of Merit, McKinney Chapter winner, the Sergeant Moses Adams Memorial Middle School Brochure Contest, Texas, Sons of the American Revolution. And so here's that. And then that's the important part. Don't lose that. Mom, help you figure out a way to get that cash. Here you go. You can hold on to that. Okay. That was all for me, buddy. Okay.
Next on the agenda is old business and announcements. Do we have any old business that needs to be attended to? What about announcements? Okay. Events, on the back cover, the upcoming events. June, Roddy Berkeley Parade. We got 34, the 250th celebration AR in downtown McKinney. Do we have any DAR representatives who'd like to speak about that?
I can tell you what's gonna go on. Basically on the third of December, we're going to have and it's at the Collin County History Museum, which is down in downtown McKinney, in the, used to be the old post office. And we're gonna have opportunities with DAR ladies dressed up in period attire. There'll be SDR people dressed up in period attire. You can come get a picture made with us. We're gonna have basically about 3 tables of art of war, Revolutionary War period artifacts, 1750 to 1800. It's all a part of the artifacts that were accumulated by our alumnus every day or two. When we say, I wish I could call Bill and ask him about that. Lots of different artifacts on that table. Again, the DAR is going to have various opportunities and things. We're going to be the kids come. We're going to give them a United States flag and all around a good time. And it starts at, help me, 11 o'clock, wasn't it? Noon.
Doors open at 11.
doors open at
We
11.
can come and stand up.
And it's set up and it's at noon, so we'll be there on that day. Then we're also, and again, several of us within the DAR participating. And then on Saturday, one of the things, that the SER and DAR wanted to do, we're gonna go to some of the senior living facilities. Basically, and have the same sort of a situation of setting up a museum. We're gonna take it to them. We have two different, basically facilities here in McKinney that we're gonna take that to. And the first one's gonna be, on Saturday. So, and then we got more things coming up on the 3rd of July. The museum will be open again. On the 3rd of July in the afternoon, we're gonna be reading the Declaration of Independence. We'll have multiple readers on the museum steps. If you want to come hear that again, we're gonna be doing that. Parade in 4th of July. I think the parade starts at 10 o'clock, I believe, 10 o'clock. And you're gonna have a great opportunity to see George Washington crossing the Delaware. I think I've already told maybe a few of you who's gonna be George Washington, but what can I say? And I'm gonna be in a cardboard boat, some sort, on the back end of the trailer. And John Ray's gonna be driving it. He's gonna make sure that I don't get hurt, one way or another. But anyway, they're gonna have several vignettes, Revolutionary War vignettes. Okay, and the last one at the back, they're gonna have, I think, I'll let the rest of it be surprises, but anyway, I'm gonna be at the back. And Carol can attest to the fact that my hairpiece came in the, yeah, anyway, I've got a nice hairpiece to wear, so I look a little more appropriate. I'm a little worried because I think it's gonna be hot, and I'm George Washington outfit is not a cool. So hopefully I'm gonna be drinking while that's basically it. And then there's gonna be some more things going on again throughout the summer.
Now, are there any other upcoming announcements, upcoming events that you'd like to talk about? Back this on?
I think, we're going, let's see here. Well, I know Dave's going and I'm going and Dave's going to the national conference. So I'm actually, everything I've got going on, I'm not gonna be here for a couple of weeks. So good luck. So I'm not gonna be here for a couple of weeks, maybe a blessing in disguise. But anyway, I'm excited about going that. I've had that on my bucket list and I wanted to go see what all these guys do at the national conference. So myself and my son-in-law, who's also a member of the SAR and a past president over in North Carolina, we're gonna go there together. So it's gonna be good. Carol's gonna get to spend over a week with our older daughter there in North Carolina. So we're gonna have a great time. So anyway, and I'll give you a report when I come back. I can't think of anything else. But did I miss something, Nathan? I don't. No? Okay.
You can read within the brochure of the upcoming meetings and the different topics and interest. Let's see, we need to approve the main minutes. I believe, Terry put them out in the newsletter. Do we have a motion to approve them? We have a second? Any discussion on the matter? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nothing heard. Let's see. Treasurer's report. Peter, would you come forward and tell us about the treasurer's report?
All right, so here's the treasurer's report for June 18th. So the funds at our last meeting were $8,049.56. This month, we had $422.50 from the Texas Society for Membership Dues. We also raised $2,140 donations for the Veterans Recreational Support. So well done, everyone. It's great. There are no expenses this month. And chapter available funds are now at $10,612.06. This amount does not include funds that have been allocated for project 2026. And that amount is $1,860. Any questions? Hearing none.
Thank you, Peter. Any other business or announcements that need to be made?
I've got.
Go ahead, Tom. You next.
So, not only is she our teacher, and she did her brochure, she also entered the history teachers contest. Okay, that's sort of where I met you, in fact, as I recall. So she entered it for the Plano. That.
Plano, yes, Plano Chapter,
Plano Chapter. Okay, and so she won, and then she won at state. You ready for this? She's our national winner, our history teacher, our national. So you got to hear her read her essay. Brought some of us to tears. So part of it brought some of us to tears, but I think probably we could get some information on it, but she loves her kids. She loves what she's doing. Okay. And Dave knows because he's had a good time with all of our students there for a day. Right? And tell her where you got to go with the money and things.
So for the national award, you get to pick an institute. And typically our winners that I've heard pick, Williamsburg or a Founding Forward program. And I already got into Founding Forward this summer, I leave pretty soon, and I can just apply for Mount Vernon. So I decided to actually apply for the call to papers for the SAR in Greensboro, and so that's the one I picked. So I went last weekend in May, and it's historians, scholars, grad students, and they put in the papers for different parts of the American Revolution. They focused on enslavement this time, and Black Americans and patriots during that time period. And all of these papers are presented, and then at the end of it, we come together as a group, everyone that had an invitation to come, and we put out ideas, and all of those papers will be compiled into a book that will be published through like University Press, and so it's meant for college level books like that. So it was a wonderful time. Annette Gordon Reed was actually there. She was honored. So we got to meet her and she spoke for a little bit. It was just wonderful to get to see SAR members and then, the grad students and different historians mixing and mingling for the weekend. So I really appreciate that. And I feel like I'm actually a member as many meetings as I go to in Plano, but I am going to work on possibly becoming a VRR member. I'm looking through my lineage right now. So I really like that partnership between my students and classroom and bringing in SAR members to talk about flags or maps. And so I hope to continue that partnership.
Wonderful. Well, I will be. I wanted to tell you that an honorary member here now, I don't know what they say, you're an honorary member here. I'm gonna put you on the mailing list, so you're gonna start getting all our information. You'll see what the programs are. You're welcome to any program, third Thursday of each month. You hear a talk, city talk you'd like to come see. You just come on in.
Favorite to the history lesson.
Okay, so
Notes and
we're gonna try to see you all.
everything.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Please stand for the benediction. Let's pray. May the God of all peace, who brought again from the dead our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the great shepherd of the sheep, For the blood of the everlasting covenant, make you perfect in every good work, fruit of will, working in you that which is appropriate in his sight through Jesus Christ our Lord, to whom be all glory forever and ever. Amen. And our recession. Until we meet again, let us remember our obligation to our forefathers, who gave us our Constitution, Bill of Rights, an independent Supreme Court, and a nation of free men. Our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think this large meeting.